My name is Charity Denny, and I'm 71 years old. And today, my heart sank in a way I never expected. I had barely stepped out of the old Honda when my son looked at me with shock and disappointment. He asked, "Mom, why did you come with Honda? What happened to the limousine I gave you on Mother's Day?" Before I could open my mouth, my daughter laughed a cold, sharp laugh that cut deeper than any knife, and she said loudly, "That car belongs to me now. I don't think an old woman can maintain a limousine." My son stayed silent for a moment. Long enough for my chest to tighten, and what he did next truly made me smile. But before I tell you what happened, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment where you're watching from. It really helps the channel grow. Let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand who I am and how I got here. My name is Charity Denny. I'm 71 years old now, though some days I feel like I'm 90, and other days I still feel like that young woman who carried 2 babies on her hips while cleaning houses just to put food on the table. I never had much. I grew up poor in a small town where dreams were luxuries we couldn't afford, but I had something else. I had love, and I had determination. When I got married at 22, I promised myself that my children would have better than I did. They would never go to bed hungry. They would never wear shoes with holes in them. They would never feel the shame of being less than anyone else. And I kept that promise. God knows I kept it. My husband passed away when my son Vincent was only 12 and my daughter Diane was 15. One day, he was there, the next he was gone, and I was left with 2 children, a mountain of bills, and a grief so heavy I thought it would crush me. But I didn't have time to be crushed. I had mouths to feed. So I worked. I worked 3 jobs, cleaning offices at night, working at a grocery store during the day, and taking in laundry on the weekends. My hands were raw and cracked. My back ached so badly some mornings I could barely stand up straight. But I smiled at my children. I made sure they had clean clothes, hot meals, and someone who believed in them. I sacrificed everything. Vacations? Never had one. New clothes for myself? Not unless something literally fell apart. A night out with friends? What friends? I didn't have time for friends. My entire life became about them, Vincent and Diane. My whole world revolved around making sure they had opportunities I never had. And they did well. They both went to college. Vincent became a successful businessman, and Diane became a nurse. I was so proud. So incredibly proud. I thought I had done it. I had given them the life I always dreamed they would have. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. I can't tell you exactly when it happened, but it did. Slowly, quietly. Like a river changing its course, so gradually you don't notice until the water is flowing in a completely different direction. Vincent was always the gentler one. Kind. Thoughtful. He remembered my birthday every year, called me every week, and made sure I had everything I needed. He worried about me living alone in that old house. He worried about me driving that beat-up car. He worried, and he cared. Diane was different. She was always harder, sharper around the edges. I told myself it was because she was the oldest, because she had to grow up faster after her father died. I made excuses for her. I always made excuses for her. But the truth? The truth I didn't want to admit was that Diane saw me as someone to take from, not someone to cherish. And I let her. I let her because I was her mother, and mothers are supposed to give, right? That's what we do. We give and give until there's nothing left, and then we find a way to give some more. It was a Saturday afternoon in late spring. The air was warm, the kind of warm that makes you feel alive, and the dogwood trees were blooming white and pink along the streets. It should have been a beautiful day. It should have been a day of celebration. Vincent had invited both of us, Diane and me, to his house for a family barbecue. Nothing fancy, he said. He had sounded so happy on the phone when he called, so genuinely excited, and that made me happy too. But that morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. A heavy, uncomfortable feeling that I couldn't quite name. I tried to shake it off as I got dressed, as I made myself a simple breakfast of toast and tea, as I looked out the window at that beautiful spring day. Then I looked at my driveway, and the knot tightened. The Honda was there. That old, reliable Honda Civic that I'd been driving for almost 15 years. It had dents and scratches. The paint was faded. The air conditioning only worked sometimes, but it ran. It got me where I needed to go. The limousine was gone. You see, 3 months earlier, on Mother's Day, Vincent had done something that completely shocked me. He had shown up at my house driving a brand new limousine, well, not brand new, but new to me, a beautiful black Lincoln Town car, the kind that looks elegant and stately. The kind of car I never in a million years thought I would own. He had tears in his eyes when he handed me the keys. "Mom," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "you've driven that old Honda for as long as I can remember. You've never asked for anything. You've never complained. But I'm doing well now, and I want you to have something nice, something you deserve. Please. Take this. Let me do this for you." I cried. I actually cried right there in my driveway. I tried to tell him it was too much, that I didn't need such an expensive car, that the Honda was fine. But he insisted. He said he had worked hard to be able to do this for me, and it would make him happy to see me driving something comfortable and safe. So I accepted it. How could I not? It was a gift from my son, given with so much love. For a few weeks, I drove that limousine, and I'll admit it felt wonderful. It was smooth and quiet. The seats were like sitting on clouds. People would look at me at stoplights, and I would feel, just for a moment, like I mattered, like I was someone special. But then, Diane came to visit. She saw the car and her eyes lit up in a way that made me uncomfortable. She walked around it slowly, running her hand along the hood, peering inside at the leather interior. "Wow, Mom," she said, but there was something in her tone. Something that wasn't quite admiration. "This is really nice. Really, really nice. We're one at age, please." "Vincent gave it to me for Mother's Day," I said quietly. "Of course, he did." She laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. "Vincent always was the golden child, wasn't he?" I felt my chest tighten. "Diane, that's not fair. You know I love you both equally. Do you?" She turned to look at me, and her eyes were hard. "Because it seems like Vincent gets to be the hero while I'm just... What? The one who's never good enough? That's not true. I work just as hard as he does, Mom. Harder, probably. I'm a nurse. I save lives. But I don't have the fancy business and the big house and the extra money to throw around on expensive cars." I didn't know what to say. I stood there in my driveway, feeling like I was being accused of something I didn't do. "You know," she continued, her voice softening just a little, "my car has been having problems, the transmission is going out. I've been quoted over $3,000 to fix it, and I don't have that kind of money right now, not with Melissa's college tuition and the mortgage and everything else." My heart sank. Melissa was her daughter, my granddaughter. A sweet girl, trying to make her way through nursing school, just like her mother had. "Oh, Diane," I said. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know." "Why would you know? No one asks about my problems. Everyone's too busy celebrating Vincent." The bitterness in her voice was like acid. "What if..." She paused, looking at the limousine again. "What if I borrowed this for a while? Just until I can get my car fixed. You still have the Honda, right? That runs fine. You don't really need two cars, do you?" And there it was. The question I knew was coming from the moment I saw her face. I should have said no. I should have stood firm and explained that it was a gift from Vincent, that it meant something to me, that I wanted to keep it. But when I looked at my daughter, my firstborn, the one who had watched her father die, the one who had struggled and worked hard her whole life, I couldn't. Because I'm her mother. And mothers sacrifice. That's what we do. Just for a little while? I asked weakly. Just until I get my car fixed. A month, maybe 2 at the most. I promise, Mom. I'll take good care of it. So I gave her the keys. That was 3 months ago. After Diane drove away in the limousine that day, I stood in my driveway and watched the taillights disappear around the corner. The Honda Civic sat there, patient and familiar, like an old friend who never asked for anything. I told myself it was temporary. Just alone. Just helping my daughter through a difficult time. Isn't that what mothers do? We help. We sacrifice. We put our children's needs before our own. But even as I told myself these things, a small voice whispered in the back of my mind, asterisk, she's not going to give it back. Asterisk. I pushed the voice away. I had to believe in my daughter. I had to trust that she meant what she said. The first month passed. I didn't hear much from Diane except for a few brief text messages, always polite, always vague. Thanks again, Mom. The car is running great. I'll let you know about the repairs soon. I wanted to ask directly about when she might return the limousine, but something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was fear of seeming ungrateful for the time I had with the car, fear of creating conflict. Fear of being seen as selfish. So I stayed silent. Vincent called me every week, like always. How are you doing, Mom? How's the car running? Are you enjoying it? And every time, I lied. Oh, it's wonderful, sweetheart. Just wonderful. Thank you again. What else could I say? That I had given it to his sister? That the gift he had worked so hard to give me was now sitting in someone else's driveway? I couldn't do that to him. I couldn't create division between my children. I had spent my whole life trying to keep the peace, trying to make sure they loved each other. I wasn't about to be the cause of a fight between them, so I lied to protect them both. But the lies were heavy. Each one added another stone to the weight I carried in my chest. The second month came and went. Then the third. Diane's texts became less frequent. When I finally worked up the courage to call her and ask gently about the car, she sounded irritated. Mom, I told you my transmission is expensive. I'm still saving up. Do you need the car back right away? Because I thought you said you were fine with the Honda. I am fine with the Honda, I just. Then, what's the problem? Are you saying you want to leave me without a car? You know, I have to get to work. You know, I have responsibilities. The guilt hit me like a slap. How could I be so selfish? She was right, she needed transportation to get to the hospital, to take care of patients, to live her life. What kind of mother would I be if I took that away from her? No, no. Of course not, I said quickly. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to pressure you. Take your time. Thank you. Her voice softened just slightly. I appreciate your understanding, Mom. You've always been so good to me. But after I hung up, I sat in my kitchen and cried. Because deep down, I knew. I knew she had no intention of giving the car back. I knew I had been manipulated. And I knew I had let it happen. The limousine had become hers in her mind. And I was too weak, too afraid of conflict, too desperate to be a good mother to do anything about it. When Vincent called to invite me to the barbecue, I almost said no. Come on, Mom, he said warmly. It's been too long since we all got together. I'm inviting Diane, too. It'll be good for us, just family, good food, relaxing in the backyard. Please say you'll come. How could I say no to that voice? That kind, loving voice that only wanted to bring his family together. Of course I'll come, I said. Great. And Mom, you can show off that beautiful car. I still get such a kick out of thinking of you driving around town in style. My stomach dropped. Oh, well. I'm so glad I could do that for you. You deserve it. You deserve every good thing. The call ended, and I sat there, holding the phone, my hand trembling. I had to tell him. I should have told him right then. But I couldn't find the words. How do you explain that you gave away something precious because you were too weak to say no? How do you admit that you chose not to protect a gift that meant so much because you were afraid of being called selfish? The morning of the barbecue, I stood in front of my closet for 20 minutes, trying to decide what to wear. It's funny how you fixate on small things when you're anxious about bigger ones. I finally chose a simple blue dress, nothing fancy, but clean and neat. Then I walked outside and looked at the Honda. I should have called Diane. I should have demanded she bring the limousine back, or at least asked to borrow it for the day. It was still mine, after all. Vincent had given it to me, but I didn't call. Because I knew what would happen. She would get angry, she would accuse me of being difficult, of not caring about her struggles. She would make me feel guilty for even asking, and I couldn't handle that. Not that day. So I got into the Honda. I turned the key, and the engine sputtered to life with its familiar rough sound. And I drove toward Vincent's house with that heavy knot in my stomach growing heavier with every mile. Vincent lived in a beautiful neighborhood on the north side of town, tree-lined streets, well-maintained lawns, houses with neat flower beds and children's bicycles in the driveways. It was the kind of neighborhood I had dreamed of when my children were young, safe, clean, full of promise. As I pulled up to his house, I saw Diane's car already parked at the curb. No. Not her car. My car. The limousine. It sat there gleaming in the afternoon sun, polished and beautiful, looking so out of place next to my battered Honda. Seeing it felt like being punched in the stomach. I parked behind it and sat for a moment, gripping the steering wheel. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. Part of me wanted to drive away, to just turn around and go home and pretend I had gotten sick. But I couldn't do that to Vincent. He had planned this day, he wanted his family together. So I took a deep breath, gathered my purse, and stepped out of the Honda. Vincent must have been watching from the window because the front door opened immediately. He came walking down the driveway with a smile on his face, but the smile faltered when he saw me. When he saw the car I had arrived in, he stopped a few feet away from me, and I watched his face change. "Mom," he said slowly. "Why did you come in the Honda? What happened to the limousine I gave you on Mother's Day?" Before I could answer, before I could even open my mouth to explain, Diane appeared on the front porch. She had been inside, probably watching through the window too. And when she heard Vincent's question, she laughed. That laugh. God, that laugh will haunt me for the rest of my life. It was cold. Sharp. Cutting. The kind of laugh that doesn't come from joy but from cruelty. From superiority. "That car belongs to me now," she called out loudly, her voice carrying across the lawn. "I don't think an old woman can maintain a limousine." The words hit me like stones. Asterisk old woman. Asterisk. That's what I was to her. Not her mother. Not the woman who had sacrificed everything so she could have a better life. Just an old woman. Weak. Incapable, disposable. I felt my face go hot with shame. Not because I was old, I've earned every one of my 71 years, but because she said it with such contempt, such dismissiveness. As if my age made me less worthy of respect. Less deserving of kindness. I looked at Vincent, and I saw his face had gone very still. His jaw was clenched. His eyes were fixed on Diane, and something was happening behind them, something I had never quite seen before. The silence stretched out. 1 second. 2 seconds. 5 seconds. It felt like an eternity. Vincent didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, looking at his sister, and I could almost see the wheels turning in his mind. And in that moment, standing in that driveway, between my two children, I felt smaller than I had ever felt in my entire life. You need to understand something about me. You need to understand the pattern that had been playing out my entire life, long before that moment in Vincent's driveway. I have always been a giver. Always. From the time I was a little girl watching my own mother stretch a single chicken to feed 6 people, I learned that women mothers especially were supposed to sacrifice. We were supposed to go without so others could have. We were supposed to swallow our own needs and desires and pains so that everyone around us could be comfortable. And I took that lesson to heart, maybe too much to heart. When my children were young and money was desperately tight, I ate less so they could eat more. I told them I wasn't hungry, that I had eaten earlier, that I preferred smaller portions. But the truth was, I was starving. My stomach would ache with hunger as I watched them eat, but their full bellies mattered more than mine. When Diane needed money for nursing school, I took out a loan I could barely afford. When Vincent wanted to go on a school trip that all his friends were going on, I picked up extra shifts and went without groceries for 2 weeks so he could go. I painted their bedrooms and let mine stay dingy and faded. I bought them new clothes and wore the same 3 outfits until they literally had holes. I made sure they had birthday parties and Christmas presents while I celebrated my own birthdays alone with a single cupcake and a candle. I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me. I'm telling you this so you understand that the moment in that driveway wasn't just about a car. It was about a lifetime of giving and giving and giving until there was nothing left of me but the act of giving itself. And Diane had learned to take it. She had learned it well. Over the years, it had been small things at first. Borrowing money and forgetting to pay it back. Asking me to babysit Melissa at the last minute, even when I had plans. Showing up at my house when she knew I had just bought groceries and leaving with bags full of food because, you have plenty, Mom, and we're running low. I told myself it was normal. Families help each other, but helping became enabling. And enabling became being used. The limousine was just the latest example, the biggest example. The one that finally made something crack inside me. Because when she called me an old woman in that driveway, with that contemptuous laugh, she wasn't just insulting my age. She was saying that everything I had given, everything I had sacrificed, everything I had done for her entire life meant nothing. I meant nothing. I was just an obstacle to what she wanted, and as I stood there, feeling that shame and hurt wash over me, I realized something terrible. I had taught her to treat me this way. By never saying no, by never setting boundaries, by always putting her needs above my own dignity. I had made myself invisible. Vincent still hadn't said anything. He stood there in that driveway, his eyes moving from Diane to me and back to Diane again, but his silence wasn't empty. It was full. Heavy. Pregnant with realization. I knew my son. I knew him better than anyone. And I could see the thoughts racing through his mind, connecting dots he had somehow missed before. He was remembering. I could see it in his eyes. He was remembering the time 2 years ago when I had told him I couldn't come to his house for Thanksgiving because I wasn't feeling well, but Diane had been there and mentioned in passing that Mom was actually babysitting Melissa that day. The lie I had told to avoid admitting I was being used. He was remembering the time he had asked to borrow my good serving dishes for a dinner party, and I had said I couldn't find them, when the truth was Diane had taken them months before and never returned them. He was remembering all the times he had offered to take me out to dinner or buy me something nice, and I had said I didn't need anything, that I was fine, that he shouldn't spend his money on me not because I didn't want those things, but because I had already given everything away to his sister. He was remembering the pattern. The pattern of me being diminished and Diane being entitled, and him being kept in the dark about all of it because I had worked so hard to keep the peace between them. The pieces were falling into place. I could see it happening. The confusion on his face was hardening into something else, something that looked like anger, but not at me, for me. Diane was still standing on the porch, arms crossed, with that smug expression on her face. She thought she had won. She thought this would play out like it always did. Vincent would be uncomfortable, I would be quiet, and everything would eventually go back to normal with her keeping the car. But she had miscalculated. She had pushed too far. She had humiliated me in front of the one person who might actually do something about it. And Vincent was realizing that the mother he loved, the mother he had worked so hard to honor with that gift, had been too beaten down by years of manipulation to stand up for herself. His jaw clenched tighter. And then, finally, he moved. Vincent walked past me without a word. His footsteps were measured and deliberate as he crossed the lawn toward the porch where Diane stood. I wanted to call out to him, to tell him it was okay, to not make a scene, to just let it go, but I couldn't find my voice. It was trapped somewhere in my throat, strangled by decades of keeping quiet. He climbed the 3 steps to the porch and stood directly in front of his sister. They were almost the same height, and they looked at each other for a long moment. "Give me the keys," Vincent said. His voice was quiet but firm. Diane's smug expression faltered just slightly. "What?" "The keys to the limousine. Give them to me. Now." She let out a sharp laugh. "Are you serious? This is between Mom and me. She gave me the car." "She loaned you the car," Vincent corrected. "And you manipulated her into doing it." "I know you did because I know Mom, and I know she would never have given away that gift unless you made her feel guilty about keeping it." "That's not." "How long has it been, Diane?" 3 months? 4. You told her it would be temporary. You told her you needed to fix your transmission. That's what you said, right?" Diane's face was reddening. "I do need to fix my transmission." "Then where's your old car?" "Because I drove past your house last week, and I saw it sitting in your driveway. Running just fine. In fact, I saw you getting into it to go somewhere." The lie was exposed, hanging in the air between them like something rotten. Diane's mouth opened and closed. That's you don't understand." "No, I understand perfectly." Vincent's voice was rising now, and I could hear the anger breaking through. "You saw something nice that Mom had. Something I gave her because she deserves nice things after a lifetime of having nothing, and you decided you deserved it more. You decided she didn't need it because she's just an old woman. Right? Isn't that what you just said?" "Vincent, you're blowing this way out of proportion." "Am I?" He took a step closer to her. "Tell me something. When was the last time you called Mom just to see how she was doing? Not to ask for something. Not to drop off your daughter for free babysitting, just to talk to her. To spend time with her." Diane looked away. "Yeah. That's what I thought." Vincent shook his head slowly. "You know what kills me? It's not even about the car, it's about respect. You called her an old woman, like it was an insult. Like she's less than you somehow. That woman raised us alone after Dad died. She worked 3 jobs so we could eat. She sacrificed everything so we could have opportunities. And now that she's older, now that she's finally at a point where maybe someone can do something nice for her, you swoop in and take it away. She gave it to me." Diane's voice was defensive now, shrill. "Because you manipulated her." Vincent's voice cracked with emotion. "Because, you know, she can't say no to us. You know she would give us her last breath if we asked for it. And you've been using that your whole life, haven't you?" I stood there at the edge of the lawn, tears streaming down my face, watching my son defend me in a way no one ever had before. "Give me the keys," Vincent said again. "The car goes back to Mom. Today. Right now. And what am I supposed to drive?" Diane demanded. Your car. The one that works just fine. The one you've been lying about. You can't just. Yes, I can. Because that car belongs to Mom. Not you. Mom. And if you don't give me those keys right now, I will call the police and report it stolen. The threat hung in the air. Diane's face went pale, then red, then pale again. You wouldn't. Try me. They stared at each other for what felt like an eternity. Finally, with shaking hands, Diane reached into her pocket and pulled out the keys. She threw them at Vincent, literally threw them, and they hit his chest before falling to the ground. Fine, she shouted. Take the stupid car. But don't come crying to me the next time you need something, Mom. She looked past Vincent to where I stood, and the hatred in her eyes made me flinch. This is your fault, she spat. You always did favor him. Then, she stormed past both of us, got into her own car, the one that apparently worked perfectly fine, and peeled out of the driveway with a screech of tires. Vincent bent down slowly and picked up the keys. My legs felt weak. My whole body felt weak. I thought I might collapse right there on his lawn. But when he reached me, he didn't say anything. He just pulled me into a hug. A long, tight hug that said everything words couldn't. And I cried into his shoulder like a child. We didn't have a barbecue that day. The moment was too raw, too heavy. Instead, Vincent walked me to the limousine, opened the door for me, and helped me into the driver's seat like I was something precious and fragile. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't you dare apologize. He squeezed my hand. You have nothing to be sorry for. I should have told you. Mom. He knelt down beside the car so he could look me in the eyes. Listen to me. What happened today wasn't your fault. None of it. You are one of the strongest people I know, but Diane has spent years breaking down your boundaries. That's not weakness. That's what happens when someone you love uses your love against you. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears still flowing. From now on, he continued, I want you to promise me something. I want you to promise me that if anyone, and I mean anyone, including Diane, including me, asks you for something that makes you uncomfortable, you'll say no, or you'll at least call me first. Can you do that? I don't want to cause problems between you and your sister. You're not causing problems. She is. There's a difference. He stood up and kissed my forehead. Drive home in your car, Mom. The car I gave you, the car you deserve. And don't let anyone make you feel bad about it. I drove home that day, and for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt seen. I felt valued, I felt protected. It's a terrible thing to realize that you've been invisible for so long. That you've made yourself small to accommodate everyone else. That you've erased your own needs so thoroughly that even you forgot they existed. But it's also a powerful thing to be reminded that you matter. That someone sees your worth even when you've forgotten it yourself. The weeks following that day were difficult. Diane didn't call, didn't text, didn't reach out at all. Part of me wanted to call her, to apologize, to try to fix things. That instinct was so deeply ingrained in me, the need to keep the peace, to make everyone happy, to smooth over conflicts. But Vincent had made me promise. And every time I reached for the phone, I remembered standing in that driveway, hearing her call me an old woman with such contempt, and I put the phone back down. I had to learn something I should have learned decades ago. Loving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you. Being a mother doesn't mean being a doormat. Sacrifice is beautiful when it's freely given, but it's destructive when it's demanded and expected. Vincent called me every day those first few weeks. Just checking in. Making sure I was okay. Sometimes we talked about what happened, sometimes we didn't. Sometimes he just wanted to hear my voice, to know I was still there, still standing. And slowly, something started to change inside me. I started saying no to small things. When a salesperson pressured me at the store, I said no. When a neighbor asked me to watch her dog for the fourth weekend in a row without even offering to pay or reciprocate, I said no. When the church asked me to volunteer for yet another committee when I was already exhausted, I said no. Each no felt terrifying at first. I expected anger. I expected guilt. I expected people to stop loving me. But, you know what happened? Nothing bad. People accepted my no and moved on. And I started to understand that the world wouldn't fall apart if I had boundaries. That people would actually respect me more, not less, if I respected myself. I started driving the limousine regularly. At first, I felt guilty every time I got in it, like I was being ostentatious or showing off. But Vincent's words echoed in my head, "You deserve nice things." Did I? Did I really deserve nice things? It took time, but eventually I started to believe it. Yes. Yes, I did deserve nice things. I had worked hard my entire life. I had given everything to my children. I had earned the right to have something beautiful and comfortable. So I drove that car with my head held high. And every time I did, I thought about my son standing up for me, my son seeing me, my son reminding me of my worth. 6 weeks after that terrible day, my phone rang. It was evening, and I was sitting in my living room reading a book, the limousine parked safely in my driveway where it belonged. The caller ID showed Diane's number. My heart jumped. My hand trembled as I reached for the phone. I stared at it for 3 rings, 4 rings, 5 rings. Then I answered. Hello? There was silence on the other end. Not dead silence, but the kind of silence where someone is there, breathing, trying to find words. Mom? Diane's voice was small. Quiet. Nothing like the sharp, cruel voice from that day. I'm here. More silence. Then, can we talk? We're talking now. No, I mean. Can I come over? Please? Every instinct in my body screamed at me to say yes immediately, to rush to comfort her, to make everything okay. But I had made a promise to Vincent, and more importantly, I had made a promise to myself. Why? I asked. Because I. Her voice cracked. Because I need to apologize. And I need to do it in person. Please, Mom. I closed my eyes. Took a deep breath. Okay, tomorrow, at 2. But Diane, if you come here to ask for something, if you come here to manipulate me or make me feel guilty, I'm going to ask you to leave. Do you understand? A shaky breath on the other end. I understand. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow. I hung up and sat there in the quiet, my heart pounding. I didn't know if I had done the right thing. But I knew I had done something different. And different was progress. The next afternoon, at exactly 2 o'clock, Diane's car pulled into my driveway. I watched from the window as she sat there for a long moment before getting out. She looked smaller somehow. Older. Tired. I opened the door before she could knock. We stood there looking at each other for a moment. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. Her hair wasn't styled the way she usually kept it. She looked worn down in a way I'd never seen before. Come in, I said quietly. She followed me into the living room, and we sat down, me in my usual chair, her on the couch. The same couch where she used to sit as a little girl, telling me about her day at school, showing me her drawings, asking me to read her stories. Where had that little girl gone? I don't know where to start, she said finally, her hands twisting in her lap. Start with the truth, I said. Just the truth. That's all I want. She nodded, and tears started flowing down her face. I've been horrible to you. For years. Not just about the car. About everything. I didn't say anything. I just waited. I don't know when it started exactly, she continued, her voice breaking. Maybe after Dad died. Maybe before. But somewhere along the way, I started seeing you as someone who was just there to give me things. To make my life easier, to solve my problems. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. And you always did. You always gave me whatever I asked for. So I kept asking. I kept talking. And I never once stopped to think about what it was costing you. Why? I asked. The question I'd been carrying for so long. Why me and not Vincent? She let out a bitter laugh. Because Vincent was always the good one. The successful one. The one who had everything figured out. And I was just. I don't know. Struggling. Always struggling. And I resented him for it. I resented that everything seemed easy for him while I had to fight for everything. But that's not true, I said softly. Vincent struggled too. He worked incredibly hard. I know. She cut me off. I know that now. Or maybe I always knew it and just didn't want to admit it. It was easier to be angry. Easier to feel like I deserved compensation for some imaginary unfairness. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen in years. Genuine remorse. When Vincent confronted me that day, when he called me out in front of you, I was so angry. I drove away feeling like you had both betrayed me, like you had chosen him over me. But then, I got home and I sat in that limousine, your limousine, and I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. She paused, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. And I didn't recognize the person looking back at me. When did I become someone who steals from her own mother? When did I become someone who calls her an old woman like it's an insult? When did I become so cruel? The tears were flowing freely now, and my own eyes were burning. I called Melissa that night, she continued. My daughter. And I told her what happened. Do you know what she said to me? I shook my head. She said, Mom, you've been complaining about Grandma for years, and I never understood why. She's the kindest person I know. What did she ever do to you except love you? Diane's voice cracked completely. My own daughter was ashamed of me. And she was right to be. She slid off the couch and onto her knees in front of my chair. She took my hands in hers, and they were shaking. I am so sorry, Mom. I'm sorry for taking the car. I'm sorry for lying about it. I'm sorry for every time I made you feel small or guilty or less than. I'm sorry for using your love against you. I'm sorry for being the kind of daughter who takes and never gives back. I looked down at her, my firstborn, my daughter, kneeling before me with tears streaming down her face, and I felt something break open inside my chest. Not break in a painful way. Break in the way a dam breaks, releasing everything that's been held back for too long. Oh, Diane, I whispered, and I pulled her up into my arms. We both cried then. Really cried. The kind of crying that comes from years of hurt and misunderstanding and love that got twisted into something painful. I forgive you, I said into her hair. I forgive you, sweetheart. I don't deserve it, she sobbed. Maybe not. But I'm giving it anyway. Because that's what mothers do. I pulled back to look at her face. But Diane, listen to me. I forgive you, but things have to change. I can't go back to how things were. I can't let you treat me that way anymore. She nodded vigorously. I know. I don't want to treat you that way anymore. I want to be better. I want to be the daughter you deserve. Then you need to understand something. I love you. I will always love you. But my love is not a weakness for you to exploit. It's a gift. And gifts need to be cherished, not taken for granted. I understand. She wiped her face. And I want to earn your trust back. I know that's going to take time. I know I can't just apologize and expect everything to be okay. No, I agreed. You can't. But it's a start. She stayed for 2 hours that afternoon. We talked about things we had never talked about before. About how she felt growing up without a father. About how she had always felt like she was in Vincent's shadow. About her own struggles with self-worth and how she had projected those struggles onto me. And I talked too. Really, talked. I told her how it felt to always be the one giving, never receiving, how it felt to be dismissed and diminished. How it felt to hear her call me an old woman with such contempt. I'm 71 years old, I said. And I'm proud of that. Every wrinkle on my face was earned. Every gray hair represents a year of survival. Of fighting. Of loving you and your brother even when it was hard. My age is not a weakness. It's a testament to my strength. I know that now, she said quietly. I'm sorry it took me so long to see it. When she left that day, she hugged me at the door, a real hug, not the perfunctory kind we'd been exchanging for years. I love you, Mom, she said. I love you too, baby. As I watched her drive away in her own car, the one that had never been broken, I felt something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. The next few months were not easy. Healing never is. There were awkward moments. There were times when old patterns tried to reassert themselves. There were moments when Diane would ask for something, catch herself, and we'd both have to navigate that uncomfortable space where boundaries were being established. But she tried. She really tried. She started calling me just to talk. No agenda, no requests. Just to check in, to hear my voice, to share her day. At first, these calls were stilted and uncomfortable, like we were strangers learning how to talk to each other. But slowly, they became easier. More natural. She invited me to lunch, her treat, and we sat in a little cafe and talked like two adults, not like a mother and a child locked in an unhealthy dynamic. She brought Melissa over to visit, and the three of us spent an afternoon looking through old photo albums. Melissa asked me questions about her grandfather, about what Diane was like as a child, about our family history. And as I answered, I watched Diane seeing me through her daughter's eyes, seeing me as a person with stories and experiences and value beyond what I could give her. Vincent was cautious at first. He called me after Diane's apology visit, worried that I had been manipulated again. I'm proud of you for setting boundaries, he said. But Mom, please be careful, people don't change overnight. I know, I told him. But I think she's trying. Really trying. And I have to give her a chance to prove it. Not for her sake, but for mine. Because if I don't give her that chance, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering what might have been. Okay, he said slowly. But if she hurts you again, if she hurts me again, I'll handle it. With boundaries, with strength. But also, with love. Because that's who I am, Vincent. I'm not going to let what happened turn me bitter or closed off. I'm going to be wise, but I'm still going to be loving. I could hear the smile in his voice. You're incredible, you know that? No, I'm just a mother. We're all incredible in our own ways. 6 months after the driveway incident, Vincent suggested we all have dinner together, him, me, and Diane, a family dinner. I was nervous. Diane was nervous. Even Vincent, who rarely got nervous about anything, was nervous. But we did it. We sat around Vincent's dining room table, and we ate together, and we talked, and it was okay. Not perfect. There were moments of tension. There were silences that felt heavy. But there were also moments of laughter. Moments of connection. Moments that felt like maybe, just maybe, we could heal as a family. At one point during the dinner, Diane looked at me and said, Mom, I've been thinking, when's the last time you did something just for yourself? Something you wanted to do, not something for someone else? I thought about it and realized I couldn't remember. That's what I thought. She said softly. What if we changed that? What if Vincent and I treated you to something special? Not because it's your birthday or Mother's Day, but just because you deserve it. You don't have to. I know we don't have to, Vincent interrupted gently. We want to. Please let us do this. And so, a month later, my children took me on a weekend trip to the mountains. We stayed in a beautiful cabin with a view of the valley. We hiked gentle trails. We sat by the fireplace in the evenings and talked. Really talked. About everything and nothing. One evening, as we sat watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, Diane reached over and took my hand. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For forgiving me even when I didn't deserve it, for showing me what real strength looks like." I squeezed her hand. "You're my daughter. I could never give up on you. I know. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure I never take that for granted again." I'm 71 years old, and I'm still learning. Isn't that something? We think that by the time we reach a certain age, we'll have everything figured out. But life keeps teaching us lessons, keeps showing us new truths about ourselves and the people we love. Here's what I've learned from all of this. Love without boundaries isn't love, it's enabling. For years, I thought being a good mother meant saying yes to everything, sacrificing everything, putting my children's needs above my own in every circumstance. But that's not healthy for anyone. It didn't help Diane, it hurt her. It taught her that she could take without giving, demand without appreciating, use without consequence. And it hurt me because it made me invisible, even to myself. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you love someone less. It means you love them enough to teach them how to treat you with respect. It means you love yourself enough to demand that respect. Aging is not a weakness. This one hit me hard. When Diane called me an old woman with such contempt, I felt ashamed of my age for the first time in my life. But I shouldn't have. I have lived 71 years. I have survived loss and poverty and heartbreak and struggle. I have raised 2 children alone. I worked until my hands bled and my back ached. I have loved fiercely and sacrificed greatly. My age is my badge of honor. Every year I've lived has made me stronger, wiser, more resilient. I am not less because I'm older. I am more. Forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. I forgave Diane for how she treated me. I did that for my own peace, so I wouldn't carry bitterness and resentment into my final years. But forgiveness didn't mean pretending nothing happened. It didn't mean immediately going back to how things were. Reconciliation takes time. It requires changed behavior, not just apologies. It requires trust to be rebuilt slowly, carefully. Children need to see their parents as whole people. For years, I was just mom to my children, a role, a function, not a complete person with my own needs and desires and feelings. The moment in that driveway, as painful as it was, forced them to see me differently, to see me as someone who could be hurt. Someone who deserved protection. Someone who mattered beyond what I could give them. And that shift changed everything. It's never too late to find your voice. I spent 70 years being quiet, keeping the peace, swallowing my words. And then, at 71, I finally started saying no. Started setting boundaries. I started standing up for myself. And you know what? The world didn't end. People didn't stop loving me. In fact, the people who truly loved me, like Vincent, loved me more for it. If you're reading this and thinking it's too late for you, that you're too old to change, that you've been the peacekeeper for too long to start making waves now, I'm here to tell you that's not true. It's never too late. Your voice matters. Your needs matter. You matter. It's been a year since that day in Vincent's driveway. A full year of healing, of learning, of rebuilding. The limousine sits in my driveway, and I drive it regularly. Sometimes I drive it to the grocery store. Sometimes I drive it to church. Sometimes I just drive it around town for no reason except that I enjoy it. And every single time I get behind the wheel, I think about Vincent standing up for me. I think about the gift of being seen. being valued, being protected. Diane and I have coffee every Tuesday morning. It's become our ritual. We meet at the same cafe, we order the same drinks, and we talk. Really talk. Not surface conversation, real conversation about our lives, our feelings, our relationship. Some Tuesdays are easier than others. Some weeks, old patterns try to creep back in, and we have to address them directly, uncomfortably. But we keep showing up. Week after week. That's what matters. She's also started doing something that touches me deeply. She helps me around the house now. Not because I ask, but because she offers. She notices when my gutters need cleaning or when my garden needs weeding, and she either does it herself or sends someone to help. It's her way of showing love through action, of giving instead of taking. Vincent still calls me every week, like always. But now, our conversations are different. Lighter. I don't have to hide things from him. I don't have to pretend everything is fine when it's not. And when something bothers me, I tell him. And he listens. And sometimes, he helps me figure out how to address it, how to set a boundary, how to use my voice. My granddaughter Melissa comes to visit me more often now. She's in her final year of nursing school, and sometimes she studies at my kitchen table, while I cook or read nearby. She asks me for advice, sometimes not just about school, but about life. And I realize that she sees me as a person worth learning from. That means more to me than I can express. I've also started doing things for myself. Small things, but they matter. I joined a book club at the library. I take a gentle yoga class twice a week for seniors. I bought myself new clothes, not because the old ones had holes, but just because I wanted something pretty and new. I'm learning, slowly, to be a little selfish in the healthiest way possible. The other day, I was driving the limousine to the grocery store, and I stopped at a red light. A young woman in the car next to me rolled down her window and called out, "I love your car." I smiled, really smiled, and called back, "Thank you. It was a gift from my son. He must love you very much." "Yes," I said, feeling the truth of it warm my chest. "Yes, he does." The light turned green, and I drove on, and I realized something. I was happy. Not the false happiness of pretending everything was fine, not the martyred happiness of sacrificing for others. Just happy. Content. At peace. At 71 years old, I had finally learned to value myself. If you're watching this, maybe you see yourself in my story. Maybe you're the mother who gives and gives until there's nothing left. Maybe you're the child who takes without realizing the cost. Maybe you're the one who finally stood up and said, "Enough." Wherever you are in your story, I want you to hear this. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. That's not love. That's self-destruction disguised as virtue. Your needs matter. Your feelings matter. Your boundaries matter. And anyone who truly loves you will respect those boundaries, even if it makes them uncomfortable at first. Being a mother is the greatest honor of my life. But being a mother doesn't mean being a martyr. It doesn't mean disappearing into the role so completely that there's nothing left of the person underneath. You can be nurturing and giving and loving while still maintaining your dignity and your sense of self. If you're older, like me, don't let anyone make you feel less because of your age. We have lived. We have survived. We have wisdom earned through decades of experience. We deserve respect, not dismissal. We deserve to be treated with dignity, not like burdens or obstacles. Our years are our strength. And if you're younger, look at the older people in your life, your parents, your grandparents, your elders, and really see them. Not just as the roles they play in your life, but as a whole, complete human beings with their own needs and feelings and struggles. Thank them not just for what they give you, but for who they are. Protect them the way they protected you. Honor them the way they honored you. Family is complicated. Love is complicated. But at its core, it should be simple. Treat the people you love with kindness, respect, and consideration. Don't take advantage of someone's love for you. Don't exploit someone's inability to say no. Don't mistake silence for consent or peace for happiness. And if you've been the one doing the taking, like my Diane was, know this: it's never too late to change. It's never too late to apologize, to do better, to become the person your loved ones deserve. Yes, it requires humility. Yes, it requires facing uncomfortable truths about yourself. But the alternative, losing those relationships, living with guilt and regret, is so much worse. My story doesn't have a perfect ending. We're still working on it every single day. There are still difficult moments, still old wounds that ache sometimes. But we're trying. We're showing up for each other in healthier ways. We're learning to love each other with boundaries and respect and mutual dignity. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything. So, here I am, 71 years old, sitting in my living room with my limousine parked safely in the driveway. The same limousine that represents so much more than transportation. It represents my son's love. It represents the moment I finally found my voice. It represents the beginning of change. Some days I look at that car and I still can't quite believe it's mine. That I'm allowed to have it. That I'm worthy of it. But I am. I'm worthy of it. I'm worthy of love and respect and beautiful things. And so, are you. Whatever your age, whatever your circumstances, whatever role you play in your family, you are worthy. Don't forget that. Don't let anyone make you forget that. Stand up for yourself. Set boundaries. Use your voice. And when someone who loves you stands up for you the way my Vincent stood up for me, let them. Accept their protection. Accept their love. You deserve it. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for letting me share this pain and this healing with you. My name is Charity Denny. I'm 71 years old. And today, my heart is full in a way I never expected. Thank you so much for watching my story. If it touched your heart, if it made you think about your own relationships, if it reminded you of your own worth, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and if this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support means the world to me. Every like, every comment, every share helps this message reach more people who need to hear it. Remember, you are valuable. You are worthy. You are enough. God bless you all.